This podcast is dedicated to the celebration and preservation of the working Australian Shepherd. Your Aussie is descended from a proud and amazing lineage of hard-working ranch dogs, identified and cultivated primarily in the Wild West. Contrary to the breed name, the Australian Shepherd is actually an American breed success story. Only in America can a blue-eyed, scruffy dog rise from the dust of the American ranch to become one of the most popular breeds in the world today. The Aussie's beauty, brains, and incredible work ethic and almost empathic connection with their human charges make them unforgettable and pivotal members of the family. My goal is to help you understand this amazing breed, learn more about their heritage and their physical and mental needs so that together we can preserve the working Aussie by encouraging better breeding and better vetting of future Aussie owners, ultimately keeping Aussies with their families and out of shelters. Welcome to the Instinctive Australian Shepherd. All right, guys, this is Jacque Tinker with the Instinctive Australian Shepherd podcast. I have an awesome guest for you as usual. I have Shawn Raff with me. Shawn lives in Georgia and has a really cool dog, Rooster. And I think, isn't Rooster your first Australian Shepherd, Shawn?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So welcome to the show, and I'm looking forward to talking to you about this really neat dog. Okay, so Shawn, tell me about how you got Rooster and why you picked an Australian Shepherd to do what you do.
Well, I kind of grew up with my mom had Australian Shepherds, old Crown Point dogs from K. Harris. I grew up in Colorado, and we had there's 24,000 acres with three families on it, and we kind of used them in the mountains as far as bringing steers and stuff in out of the pasture, but they weren't what I would call super trained dogs. They just kind of knew what to do. And that's how I've always kind of liked Australian Shepherds. So, I kind of gravitated towards that. And Roger Stevens, I kind of looked around because I needed a special type of dog that would be able to handle the workload that we have. And Roger Stevens kind of convinced me that he had an Aussie that was capable of doing that because I wasn't really for sure.
Excellent. What kind of work do you do?
Okay, we run about 4,000 head of cows, and that ranges from got cow calf pairs, stocker calves, and we run on about 1,500 acre blocks of ground.
Wow. And so what is a day? Kind of tell us about a typical day in the life of you and Rooster working.
I would say Rooster gets most of his work at the dairy because the dairy never shuts off. I mean, you're constantly processing cattle. We're always moving cattle from pasture to pasture. It's not uncommon for Rooster to move 800 head of cows in an hour and a half, 2 hours at shifting pastures. And he does that with me on the four-wheeler and him. And, he's been and up to groups, anywhere from 200 to 300 per group. And he handles that with me on the four-wheeler and him. And he'll pin them, and we fly spray everything. And we do, like here, he's laying on my front seat right now. And we'll be heading back after this interview, and we're going to be processing heifers that we moved off the hill. He'll be working the chutes and pushing stuff into the tub. And it's constant all day work like that.
Well, and for those of you that haven't had a lot of experience with working dogs, working that many animals with one dog is exceptional. That's an exceptional dog because it's a lot of cows, and dairy cows, they don't group the same as other cows, do they?
No, they don't. And what's unique about Rooster, what I really like about him is, if we're in the barns on the concrete, he just naturally knows to move slow. He's not real pushy and bitey. He will nip a nose or whatever. He ducks under the gates. He moves stuff out of the pens. He works the breeding rails and stuff, and he knows how to be slow in there. Then when we go to the pasture, if you've ever had 300 Holstein heifers come try to lick your dog, he knows he's got to be bitey and pushy to get them moving. And then, when we go to my pairs, I run Brahma Cross pairs. tiger striped cows, and they can be a little aggressive. So,
Hmm.
he has to change what he does. Stocker calves are different too. I've been asked how, several different times, how I've trained him, for that different type of stock. And the truth is that he just kind of knows what to do. I can't take any credit for that. He just knows when to slow down. He knows the type of stock he's on, and he just naturally knows what to do.
Yeah, those are special dogs. And I think, the naturalness of is awesome, but he also gets to work a lot. He has a lot of experience too, which helps these dogs get even better. But it's so cool when they get to use their instinct. And so you're in Georgia, so he has to deal with, like, we've talked about this a lot about temperatures and heat, and it gets cold there, so he gets to work through the entire range of the weather out there. Do you ever have trouble with any of those things?
In the summer, you have to really watch what you're doing. And you have to, I'll use this as an example. Rooster had a pulled ligament, and I laid him off for a couple months. We weren't running them. And we moved, I think it was 400 head of heifers in 3 groups. He did very well his first 2 sets. And on the third set, he was tired. He got tired on me. And a lot of people don't realize the kind of shape your dog has to be in to do that. Most people are very, they'll be on 50 acres or whatever and run 20 sheep or whatever they're doing. But when you have to go all day and you're pushing through the heat and just the distance that he has to go with, and then control the size of groups that he's controlling, he has to exert a lot of energy to do that.
Hmm.
And so your dog has to be physically in shape. I mean, right now I'm working with him, putting him back into working shape, you know.
Yeah.
And when I say working shape, I mean you're pushing, large groups of cattle, quarter mile and deep, on grass and things. And so they got to be pretty conditioned. You got to kind of condition them for the heat, in the summertime.
Hmm.
You don't have him, if you don't have him heat tolerant and able to go the distances, and that, you'll kill your dog.
Yeah.
And so it's a whole different set of things that that, I mean, most people don't ever see,
Yeah.
and most dogs never, see things like that. Most of them are on smaller acreages, and or arena dogs that you get taken out 10, 20 minutes and worked and then put back. There is no putting him back. I mean, we have to finish what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so, whether you're tired, whether you're whatever, you got to finish.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think there are not a lot of dogs in a lot of places where they have that work to do every day. So it's a unique thing that you do with your dog. And you're right about the conditioning thing. I talk about that a lot because it gets hot here too. And even if you're working your dog for 20, 30 minutes, if it's 100 degrees out, that can hurt your dog if they're not conditioned. Even if you're not working all day long, I think it's even worse for those dogs that come out and just do it for 20, 30 minutes. If they're not in condition, it can be even harder on them because they're not used to doing it. So those dogs that work every day get in condition, but you have to be careful because you're in charge of whether your dog is okay or not, and you have to say, "Hey, it's too hot. We need to take a break. They need water." Those kind of things, super important. So one of the things that you and I've talked about with your dog before as well is that you have a lot of hired hands. You work with a lot of different people, and Rooster works pretty well with other people, and I think that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah. The guys call him Mr. Rooster. And Rooster is probably, I mean, he's got a great personality. I mean, they carry him around like a rag doll half the time if he's, they just enjoy him, and he eats that up. And, he's very good about stuff. The only time he's really what I would call super protective is when he's at the house here. If
Hmm.
you try to come into the house and you're not invited, you're probably not going to like that.
Yeah.
But at work, he knows, I've got 30 some employees, and they got to have a good temperament
Hmm.
and know what's appropriate, what's not. When you watch any video of me and Rooster together, he's not any more than 2 feet, 3 feet from me at any time. The dog is never on leash. He stays with you. And people walk up, touch him, he's okay with that. So he's just got a great temperament for what he is.
That is, I think that's really important. I think that it's something in our breed that we've all had this controversy over about temperament with our dogs, or maybe not controversy, but it's caused issues with people who get Australian Shepherds and don't understand how to deal with that, how to train them, or how that for them to be. And then, back in the 80s, I've said this before, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s when this breed was coming up, they were valued for their protective behavior. But nowadays they have to be different because that's not tolerated in our society much anymore. And so I think that it's just neat whenever we find Aussies that have the work, have the drive, have the power, have the stamina, and then also have the temperament. I mean, that's just like it's rare and it's very valuable to have that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
I mean, we just come from Jekyll Island with the Farm Bureau thing. And I'll bet you he had 600 people grab onto him, little kids and stuff like that down there. He doesn't even, I mean, they just eat that up and he doesn't care, and he's just a good natured dog.
Yeah, he is a really neat dog. So let's talk about the Farm Bureau thing. Why don't you tell us what happened with that? I've had the National Farm Bureau winners on before, the Australian Shepherds, but you guys have a regional or a state Farm Bureau win?
Yeah. And to be honest with you, my daughter, I didn't even know that she signed us up.
Cool.
And for the Georgia thing, my daughter did it. And they contacted us. There's 100 and some dogs that were entered in the competition, and they chose Rooster. And they come out, video you on farm, video him working, and I think I was on the farm auditor. They interviewed me on that. It's temperament, what your dog does for you, working, just all around, what Rooster is to me. And Rooster is, I mean, he gets up with me at 4 a.m. We'll get in about 8 o'clock at night, and he's with me the whole time. And we have a different type of bond than, and that's hard to explain, but
Mhm.
it's like if you've worked with someone for 20 years, he knows what I want. He just knows. We don't have to communicate a lot. He knows what we're doing and he knows, what I'm going to expect.
Yeah.
And that's just him. And the farm auditor guy that come out, his comment to me was, and he talked more about how we're bonded.
Hmm.
He said, I knew within the first 3 minutes. I mean, just watching you do. And
Yeah.
my wife refers to it as an unholy alliance, is what she refers to that as.
Yeah. If you know, you know exactly what we're talking about. Those, you open the gate, the dog, you don't have to tell them anything. You just open the gate, they know the job, they do the job. And then when they're done with the job, they stop and chill. And I know Rooster has an off button, otherwise he wouldn't survive 8 hours of working constantly
No,
and frantically running around and exerting energy constantly. So yeah, I understand that bond, and I hope that anyone that has an Australian Shepherd gets to understand that bond. And I think the way to it is whatever job you do with your dog, doing a job with your dog helps enhance that bond greatly. So that is just, it's just really cool to hear these stories. And I love talking about this dog because I think he is exceptional. I think you found an exceptional dog for your first partner, and I think that's exciting for you. And I hope that you get to find lots of more roosters as you go along. So with this whole Farm Bureau thing, you got to meet the governor. You got to have what? Tell me about the celebration or the honor or
yeah,
whatever you
well,
won.
we went down to Moultrie. They had us down to Moultrie on the big farm expo down in Moultrie, Georgia, and Governor Kemp was there. I mean, I've got picture. I mean, he come up, Matt wanted to be pictured with Rooster. President of Farm Bureau. I mean, there's several people, and I think I've done 3 or 4 different interviews already on this with Rooster and the reporters with Rooster. The guy that did the farm on the farm auditor. I mean, he took a selfie with my dog, and because I mean, he's just Rooster is a very likable dog when you're I mean, he couldn't get enough of that. And I got a text back from probably three of the reporters that were out here and said, we haven't had this much fun doing an interview like this.
Oh,
And it was a pretty special deal. And I just got back from Jekyll Island. We had Rooster was down there too. And hundreds of people come up and love on him. And, they've got, the different interviews they had them on. And it was a pretty special deal. And Rooster is, they joke about him being a celebrity, and which, he kind of, I mean, he gets a lot of attention, put it that way.
yeah. Well, it's a good thing. He's a good representative of the breed. So let's talk a little bit, go back to the working thing. When you're looking at characteristics, things that you require in a dog, you covered a little bit of it, but what kind of instincts or skills are you looking for when I know Rooster's 8 years old now, right? And he's going to be looking into retirement sooner than later. What are you looking for in another dog or the next dog that can do the work you need to have done?
Not everybody needs a dog like what I've got,
Mm-hmm.
because if Rooster didn't have anything to do, he probably wouldn't be a lot of fun to live with.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't be a big boxy dog, just with the amount of endurance and things they have to have. I like a little bit of leg to them, a shorter hair coat because they're hard to clean. He's constantly in the cow shit in the water. And
Mm-hmm.
so it just makes things easier that way. And the biggest thing for me is they can't have any quit,
Yeah.
to them. And they just endurance, no quit, and a lot of heart, because when they're tired, you still gotta go.
Yeah. And when
And
things are going awry and tempers are hot, they need to stick with you.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And it's just it's they gotta be kind of, this is gonna sound different, but they gotta be kind of, especially with like the Holstein cattle, and that they gotta be a little bitey, they gotta be pushy.
Mm-hmm.
When there's a lot of different character, like with trialing and that, a dog's got to be able to leave one in the arena. When I'm out working, if we've got 200 head like that, Rooster gets in a lot of trouble if he leaves anything,
Mm-hmm.
because you just created a couple hours more work.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's taught to never leave anything, and we finish. And it may not always be pretty, but Rooster's always been kind of like, the best way, like a machine.
Mm-hmm.
He finishes usually what he starts, and he doesn't have any quit to him. And it may not be the perfect textbook deal, but geez, I can stand at the gate, send him out. He can fetch Corriente steers, whatever you want to do. And whether that's sheep, anything, he's just been a great dog.
Yeah. What kind of instincts are you looking for? Like you talked about that, not leaving anything behind, that sense of group. Does he have that naturally where he pretty much really wants to keep everything together and not leave things behind?
Yes, he does. He's very Rooster from day one has always had, I mean, a lot of natural ability, sense of group. He wasn't always easy teaching him in the trial ring, I'll tell you that,
Mm-hmm.
because he's a dog that's going to want to think, and you think about that. He works from a long distance off from me most of the time,
Mm-hmm.
and he can't hear you giving him cues and stuff like that out there. He's got to know what to do,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to think and reason his way through things. And then when you go to the trial ring, Dad, why are you micromanaging me?
Oh, I do
And
know.
so, it's just different. And our primary focus is work. That's why I have him.
Right.
Trialing is something and heck, when I got him, I didn't even intend to trial anything.
Mm-hmm.
And, I do that to get away from, kind of get away and relax sometimes. And that's what I do. And we'll maybe do 3, 4 trials, and he's good enough, when he does trial,
Mm-hmm.
that, he'll make the cattle finals and stuff for ASCA. And, that's saying something, because neither one of us have as much time as what we need to really practice to be good in the trial ring.
Yeah, it's different. The trialing is a game. and it's not real at all. There's very little reality other than dogs are working livestock. And there's some basics things that you do that are sort of similar to work, like you drive and you fetch, but it's really not the same at all. And but it's a fun game to do, but it's definitely not the same as the real work out there. And I think our Aussies tend to, I don't know, I don't have very many Aussies that really enjoy micromanagement, and they usually push back on being micromanaged. And so they prefer to be thinking dogs, and I like to raise mine as thinking dogs. And it sometimes helps you in the trial arena, but sometimes it hurts you too. But you have to be okay with that because you can't take away the think out of your dog because you need that every day. And I don't
No.
want to take the think out. I don't, my dogs don't work as much as your dog does, but they have to do the work and they have to think and be out of sight from me to do things. And so I don't want to take the think out of them either. But sometimes that'll bite you in the rear when you're trialing.
Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, and so I wouldn't trade him for anything, And there's better trial dogs out there than what he is, but I'll guarantee you this: there's not too many dogs out there that I believe can do what he does in a day, And not all
Yeah.
of them have been put in that situation, but uh, just having to do what he has to do in a day, that's a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot. We've talked about that. I'm always encouraging Shawn to get another dog to back Rooster up, and he's working on that now. You've got some young dogs in training. I know it's a
Yes.
lot for one dog to do, and just it's a testament to the grit and physicality of that dog and the mental ability of that dog to do the work that he's doing. Working that many head of cattle, one dog by himself, that's a lot of work. It's a lot of covering ground. It's a lot of moving, and it's just a lot of work. And so it's a testament to the incredible ability of that dog that he can do all of that every day.
And Billy Richardson refers to me as a unicorn because we are different in that aspect. Steve Shope tells me that he maybe knows three or four people that, and he's not even sure about that do as much work with a dog as what we do.
Yeah. It's
And,
rare
and,
nowadays.
and he's told me, Steve has told me many, many times, you got a once in a lifetime dog. And I hope that's not true. I hope it's not true.
Yeah, I
But
hope for you it's not true, but you can't ever replace those great ones, but there'll be other good ones that come along that can do the job. And and then by then you'll have a couple of dogs. You won't need one dog to do everything by itself. He's just stepped in and you just got incredibly lucky with an incredible dog, and hopefully his genetics are being passed on. I feel like we need to be looking at this type of a dog to add to breeding programs. So people who are listening to this and you have working dogs, you need to think about it and consider this. This is a proven dog. This is how you prove dogs. The trial arena to me doesn't prove a dog as much as this kind of work proves that a dog is useful. Because in my mind, I'm actually working on an article right now about some things, but in my mind, if they can do these certain things on a ranch farm situation, then everything else is pretty much doable or easy for them to do. You know, I think for me, I'll ask you about this. The litmus test for me is that a dog can stop and cover running cows. Stop cows that are running away and turn them and face them back, or slow them down, or at least turn them back to me. Because I've had cows that run off into thousands of acres of cactus and trees and mesquite trees, and you can't even see the cows because it's so thick, and the dog has to be able to do that one thing because I don't need it every day, but when I need it, I need it. And if a dog can't do that to me, it's not going to make the cut for what I want it to do. And if it can do that, it can do anything else. I don't know what your thoughts are about that.
well, they dang sure got to be able to stop a cow,
Mm-hmm.
and they got to be able to turn them.
Mm-hmm.
And when you need that, and there are some cows, no matter what you do, the dogs can continue to try, but there's some cows that are pretty rough,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to take you a few tries.
Yep. Oh, for sure. Definitely not throwing that out there because we've got some cows that can be real tough. And yes, and it's a 50-pound dog versus 1,100-pound pissed off mama calf, or mama with a calf.
Yeah.
Those ones are not going to be turned by a dog. But I'm talking in general, having the courage to try, and in general with not the crazy cows, outside of the crazy cows, because that's where the partnership comes in, that you need multiple dogs or multiple people helping work with some of those cows. It's also why we eat them, right?
Yeah, man. Rooster's a pretty mean head. I'll call him a mean head dog, and there's not too many. And he hits both ends, but he much prefers the head. If we're working alley shoots like that, he'll heel all day long in there.
Yeah.
But out in the open like that, he's gonna, he just that's what he is.
Yeah.
And there's not too many things that can get through him.
Yeah.
And he's probably 42 to 45 pounds at best.
Hmm.
Uh, but he's run hard all the time too,
Yeah.
and that's his kind of his weight. And he is a tough dog in those type of situations. I mean, he's got not much of anything's going to go through him.
Yeah.
And so, and I have to have that. If they know that they can walk through your dog, you're going to have a long day.
Oh, yeah. And they learn pretty quick. Those cows,
Yeah.
especially cows that get worked regularly by dogs, they could sense the weakness real fast.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So, what is Rooster's future plans looking like? Are you breeding any litters out of him? Are you doing anything
Um,
like that?
this next, I've got a little black dog at home, Maddie, that's showing, she's showing a lot of promise. She's been through 2 heat cycles. I'm planning on keeping. I'm going to breed her this next heat cycle, and I've still got to get her hips checked and stuff, but I've done the genetic, work on
Mhm.
her already, and she's a really clean dog. And Rooster's 100% through wisdom and paw prints. He's got 100% clean panel, and so I'm hoping for a pretty good replacement to Rooster.
Yeah.
Granted, I don't know if I'll ever be able to keep him from going to work until he can't
Hmm.
physically. But the running the distances and stuff like that, it's getting to be harder on him.
Hmm.
And so, Maddie will take that up. I've got another young male that shows quite a bit of promise. His name is Johnny Ringo, and he's going to be a good dog. But it takes a lot of time, to get something that's reliable enough to be slow enough on the concrete. I mean, you knock a cow down, right
Yep.
now that's $4,000, and
Yep.
you just can't do that.
Mm-mm.
And so they got to be pretty much bulletproof, and they got to listen. And Maddie goes to work with me some, but she ends up, when you're walking 1,600 cows through on each side of her, through the breeding rails and stuff, that's a lot of pressure on a dog.
Hmm.
And a lot of dogs, she's learning about pressure and how to be calm. And I mean, just think about this. I mean, like when I use Rooster in the tubs, we'll shove 80 some heifers into a barn, push them in. And I don't know if you've ever watched a Belgian Malinois work, go in with their handler, stays right kind of in between their leg or right on their leg.
Hmm.
And when we push into the cattle, you're shoving cattle off of you and scrolling through things, and Rooster sticks right on your leg, right in there.
Yeah.
And we're completely engulfed with cattle. You got to watch yourself so you don't get bumped and knocked down in there. Uh, but he's right there with you, and he never hesitates about walking in with you like that.
Yeah.
And no matter how tight it is, whatever, he goes in. And to teach a young dog to be okay with that and stay with you, and that's just a lot of pressure for them.
That is a lot of pressure. Yeah, a lot of pressure for a dog, and not to react and slash out at everything he sees
Yeah,
too.
you can, if they react, they're going to get you knocked down in there
Hmm.
because you got cattle behind you, around you, everywhere when
Mm-hmm.
you're working towards the front of the tub, to push into the tub.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So,
a working cows is not a dangerous
no,
scenario.
no,
I think the dairies are a lot better than some other breeds as far as working in that mass like that, but definitely still, even one that doesn't want to hurt you can accidentally hurt you pretty
yes.
bad. So, it's very interesting. That's
I
awesome.
think I think the dairy cattle are sometimes harder to work than what the beef stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I think that is they've got a little bit of they're not as scared of you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's sometimes you take your dog out to go to do anything, and you have 300 of them trying to chase your dog down because they're curious.
Yeah.
And you can tie something behind the truck and drive, and they're going to be on that whatever it is behind the pickup. They're just curious like that. And so the dog has to be able to push them off of you and keep them off of him and get them turned to go. And they're just different.
Yeah.
And beef
They're
beef
tough.
cattle are trying to get away from you most of the time,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and and if your dog gets too close, they gotta know how to stay off of the mamas like that. If she
Mm-hmm.
gets too close, what do? They turn around on your dog, and then you got to fight.
Yep.
And so,
Yep.
it's
Yep.
anyway.
So did you do this job before you had Rooster?
Yes.
How
Yeah.
what was it like? What's the difference?
What's the difference is when I'm moving 700-800 head of cattle, it's just me and the dog. Before it was taking a tractor out with a feed wagon, trying to bait them, and four other guys taking them to the center like that.
Yep.
And so, it's just me and the dog that do that.
Isn't that
I
amazing?
mean, yes. And so it's reduced labor. And if I'm working in the pens in the back or whatever, usually takes a guy to bring them out of the pen and bring them to you. And, I don't have to do any of that. I just send him on to go buy her away, and he goes around and gets in the pen, and, after you've left it open, and he'll bring them to you wherever you are, and he'll hold pressure on them while you're sorting what you want out of every pen
Mm-hmm.
in the alleys like that. And he just he can float under the pins, and the cattle are a lot calmer than when you're using men to do that.
Oh, shoot,
So
yeah. Because you never know. Those guys can be
yeah,
clueless about how to. I've had
yes,
cowboys out here helping do loading things, and I just chase them off like, no, stop it. You go away. We can do this
yeah,
better without you. Four guys. And the other thing is, people aren't fast enough if those cows turn back and they don't want to get going forward. They'll find a way through the pressure of some guys. And, people who use just feed, they're just running sheep, even sheep. And they just use a bucket and they're like, oh, I don't need a dog. I use a bucket. Well, that works fine until it doesn't.
yeah.
Until one cow or one sheep or one goat decides, nah, I'm not going to come in.
I,
I'm
I I can
hungry.
have I can have a whole line of cows in the alley and put Rooster on the other side, and you continuously push, put pressure on him, and he holds. Nothing goes past him in the alley. He
Yeah.
holds like that, and then he moves. He's constantly feeding you cattle like that. And you can sort into pens, let stuff go
Hmm.
by like that, and pretty soon he's standing there, and there's no more cows. So
Hmm.
it works really slick. So
Works really slick and replaces four guys.
yes,
Four guys, people. Did you hear that? Replaces four guys. So a dog, when you're looking at the expense of a dog, it's nothing compared to the HR requirements of having that many hands on deck to do all the jobs.
no, and Rooster would be twice the dog he is if I would have known what I was doing from the beginning. And I went through different people and trying to learn about things because I knew nothing about training a dog,
Hmm.
and then trying to find people that could, because everyone's teaching for the trial ring.
Yeah.
Everyone teaches for the trial ring, and there's not very many people out there that understand kind of
Hmm.
what, and people can have, 50, 60 cows or whatever, but they don't understand what it's like running 4,000 with a dog and the conditioning that they have to have, and
Yeah.
just the size of things. And so I spent a lot of time, trying to learn from different people, and I've had a couple people. Billy Richardson helped me a lot with things, and but she's more so, she trials. That's her main
Mm-hmm.
deal.
Mm-hmm.
Larry Painter helped me a bunch with stuff, but then, and I just have never really found anybody. Those two individuals that I just named probably helped me more, you know, than about anything. And, learning about the bubble and different things, how things got to be. And
Yeah.
uh, it's just because most people don't know. And it's not their fault. They're great in the trial arena, but they don't know, the other, what we have to go through on a daily basis
Yeah.
like that.
I don't
And
I
the
don't
situ-
think that there's a lot of people that are doing what you do with a dog. I just don't think there's that many jobs like that out there anymore. Or people don't understand the value of it or whatever. But
no, and
it's
and
pretty
and
rare.
that's what I meant by, when I'm talking about not everybody needs a dog like Rooster.
Hmm.
And I have to have that.
Yeah.
If I got something that's a little weak or can't handle pressure, it's no good to me.
Yeah.
Or can't run for miles like that.
Yeah.
That's no good for me.
Right. Right.
And so and that's so I when I'm looking for a dog or looking for a replacement, I have to look for, some different traits in a dog than a lot of people do.
Yeah. I think one of the things that helped you out is, I think, in a way, not knowing. Especially since there aren't a lot of people who use their dogs in a real life scenario that much, as far as like trainers and stuff like that. I think letting your dog figure it out and having some trust in your dog, I think, is one of the more difficult things for people to do. Let go and trust their dog, especially if you have a dog that has strong instinct and all the things that you need. He has all the pieces of the puzzle, and you guys were able to figure it out. It may actually have been smoother for you to do it that way than to put too much control on a dog and shut down some of those instincts. I prefer a thinking dog. I prefer a dog that acts out of instinct rather than one that I have to micromanage. My dogs don't like to be micromanaged, but I don't like micromanaging either. And I think that when you micromanage them, you can take a lot away from that dog. So in the fact that you have allowed him to do this thing and you guys figured it out on your own, and you trusted that dog and you showed him what to do from the beginning, it may have been actually better for you. I know that when I decided to do a run for finals with Copper and I spent that whole year trialing, when we were done with finals, he won finals in cattle, but and it was great and beautiful, but I had to put him back together again. I had to actually let him go again, let him go. He forgot how to gather out of pasture. He forgot, I had to build him back to the dog that could think on his own and do his own thing because I had taken so much away from him by having to micromanage around some of these courses. And so it, to me, there's a give and take and a balance there that you need to find, and trialing is a game. It's different. You have to approach it differently, and then doing the work that you do is different as well, and you have to approach it differently.
Yeah. And for me, coming from somebody that didn't know anything, it's taken me a while to figure out, what to take and what to
Hmm.
leave,
Yeah.
and so, and there's some individuals that, I admire and I like to watch them do things, and some that I think they do a great job in the arena,
Hmm.
but it's not useful to me on the outside like that.
No, correct.
So
100% correct. And sometimes those dogs that like Rooster that are that strong don't do as well in the arena because it requires them to take it down so low, to tone everything down so much that it's not easy for them. And there is just nothing wrong with a dog like that in my mind.
no,
So,
and I wouldn't trade it.
mm-mm.
And I had an individual tell me, because I've got Maddie, my black dog, she's really, really smooth and she stays out nice, but she's not yet. She's not quite as gritty. I mean, from the day Rooster saw a cow. I mean, Gritty was just his middle name. That just
Hmm.
there was no maybe there was no thinking about should I do this or I mean when we were training him, I literally have video of him going under cows to get to the other side to bring
Hmm.
them out of the back. There just wasn't any thought like that. And now Maddie, she'll sit down, she'll think about things a little bit, and she's kind of like a pressure cooker. When she's ready to go, she's going to go. But it's going to take her a little bit you know, to to be able to handle those type of pressure situations like that.
Hmm.
And so maybe, just maybe, with Rooster and her, it may make a pretty nice dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
To level out on some of the things that I would like to see a little different about Rooster, and then level, some things I'd like to see different about Maddie, because no matter what you think of your own dog, there's certain things you like and certain things you don't.
100%. 100%. I like running multiple dogs. I think it is, the dogs like it too. And I think it's really neat to watch. My last cow camp that I had, we had about, I don't know, 40 head of cattle in the arena of all various sizes and ages. And not very many people in the trial world can work on, that's not 1,500 by any stretch of the imagination, but they can't work on groups like that. And at the beginning, I had one of my dogs running with the student dogs, and it's so cool to watch how the dogs work together, and they work differently with each dog that comes along. Sometimes they'll each take a side, sometimes one will be the push and one will be the steering, and it's really cool to watch them work together. That is like the next level of awesome, is working multiple dogs together. And I've worked three or four on at a time before, and it's really neat to watch these nicely trained dogs work together to accomplish a goal. And I think you're going to really enjoy that once you start working multiple dogs together. I think you're going to see how fun it is, and it's challenging. It's a new level of challenge, but it's really neat, and it's fascinating to watch them figure it out together. Really
Yes.
fascinating.
So I've
Yeah.
I've started working Maddie some with Rooster, on
Hmm.
the bringing beef cattle out of the pasture and stuff, and
Hmm.
she does good. I mean, she's gritty enough out in the open like that to turn the mamas and do things, and
Good.
you know I and she's gonna have she'll end up learning how to conserve herself a little bit because that's what she needs to do,
Yeah. That's the
and
youngsters, though. That's what they
yeah,
do. They don't come out usually like that. But also Rooster, like, he'll be able to teach her how to work too. He'll show her things that you can't show her, and she'll pick up things from him that you'll be surprised by in a good way. Because I know that Copper has trained a lot of dogs around here, and it's really cool to watch how they learn from the older dog, the more mature dog. It's really neat. It's really cool.
yeah. And he does fine. I've worked him. I've got a male at home grifter and that he used to work some with Rooster, but his temperament just isn't right for
Yeah.
what we're doing.
Yeah. Right. Again, it's something that we well, I'm not a breeder, but breeders need to think about, is that you need the whole package. You need the temperament, you need the grit, and you need the instinct, in order to create these kind of dogs that ranchers and people who are like Shawn can use on a daily basis. So it's
Yeah,
a complicated puzzle, and genetics is not an easy thing to master, that's for sure.
no. And so we Rooster's got a few pups running around, and so far all of them have been workers.
Good.
So
Good. Good. Well, I hope that this might possibly bring a little attention to him, that he may be able to. He has genetics that deserve to be carried on. They need to be passed on, because dogs like this, we just don't see them a lot. So we definitely need to keep that in mind as we're going forward.
oh yeah, yeah, and I know what I like, and I wouldn't trade him for the world.
Yeah.
And somebody told me when we were talking about dogs, and somebody told me that, well, I know what you want. You want a dog that'd die for you. And I said, well, I don't know about that, but I want him giving it his all. And I've got a great big black Brahma cow that is not something that when she has a baby, she's probably 1,400 pounds, and she is not something that you really want to be messing around with. And I mean, I'll use this. She had her baby. It was on the other side of the fence to her. And I thought, oh, good. I'm going to get an easy, I can catch that calf without her, being roughing me up or anything like that. And I told
Yeah.
Rooster to stay in the truck. And I got a hold of the calf and it squalled one time. And that fence that was in between us didn't exist anymore.
Mm.
And all I saw was Rooster disobeying me because I had told him to stay. And time he was done, that cow was 50 yards off of us.
Mm-hmm.
And she had me. I mean, there was nowhere to go. And I mean, and he put himself at risk for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do want a dog that if I'm in trouble, needs to down out in the middle and, in the pasture or whatever, that's going to protect me.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
what I want.
Well, and that's, you mentioned the whole disobedience thing, and I I call it intelligent disobedience, where they know you've made the wrong call or situations have changed from when you told them to lay down or stay, that they need to react to it. I am I'm almost always okay with my dogs if they do that intelligent disobedience, or when they disobey me, the result is positive and not negative, and that's the whole thinking dog scenario too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they use
But
that. Go ahead.
yeah, he didn't even hesitate. I mean,
Nope. Of course not.
he had her. And if she would have got to me, it would have been it.
Hmm.
And I work enough around that and I've seen enough of that. She's not something that you know,
She's
I
something
mean,
that
it
needs to
was,
be loaded on a trailer and taken to the sale barn.
yeah, but she raises big calves. So,
Yeah, well, a trade-off, I don't know about that, Sean. I'm too
yeah,
old to be like risking things like that these days.
but anyway, I want them to protect me. I want
Yep.
them to be my working partner. So,
Hmm. That's awesome.
somebody that waits for me to get mauled and hides under the truck is not something I'm looking for.
Nope. Nope. Any Aussie worth his salt's hopefully not going to do that, that's for sure. Whether
Yeah.
they're strong enough or brave enough, they're going to try to help you. So.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking your time out of your day to talk to us about Rooster and what y'all do with him. I really appreciate that coming on the show and talking to us. And congratulations on your Georgia Farm Bureau of the Year, Dog of the Year award. I will put links to that information. I think you sent me a video. We're going to put some links to that. Also link to the other Farm Bureau winners that we've talked about too. But with that, we're Australian Shepherds. But anyway, I really appreciate you being on the show today, Sean.
All right. Thank you, Jackie.
Hey, and that's the show today. Thanks for joining me. I hope you really enjoyed it and got to learn something about this amazing breed, the Australian Shepherd. Join us on Facebook. We have a private group called the Instinctive Australian Shepherd. Join the group and join the conversation there. You can also find us online at theinstinctiveaussie.com. That's where you'll find all the show notes, the links to anything we talked about this show, and all of our past episodes. Subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever else you find your favorite podcasts, and that way you'll be the first ones to know as soon as an episode is uploaded. All right, everyone, I'll see you down the road.